Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Silverstone. It is Silverstone 500 Sunday, the second round of the 2025 British GT Championship, and it is the blue ribboned event, the biggest race of the season, the longest race of the season, and always one of the most fascinating. 3 hours of racing to come later on this afternoon. For now, it is the final opportunity for the teams to take to the track, warm the cars up, warm the drivers up, and get their eye in ahead of a really important 3 hours of racing later on today. Well, it's pretty early in the morning, only about 9:30, but already the temperature getting up into the mid-teens, ambient temperature that is. The track temperature, if it keeps on going this way, will hit 30 by the time we get towards midday. However, we do believe there's a chance of a little bit of rain coming later in the afternoon, so it could be an even more intriguing 3 hours of racing if that rain does hit, as we anticipate, midway through the race. Andy McEwen here in the commentary box for the day. James Baldwin alongside me. James, yesterday's qualifying sessions were pretty interesting as well. Both in GT3 and GT4, we saw qualifying lap records broken, and particularly within the GT3 category, great variety of cars. 5 different cars filling out the top 5 grid slots. I think we're in for another Silverstone classic.
Morning, Andy. Morning, everyone. It's a lovely morning at Silverstone. Weather's lovely, but it's going to rain potentially later. I kind of hope it does, because it will just throw an extra spanner in the works. But 5 different cars in the top 5 grid spots in qualifying just tells you everything you need to know. It's going to be really interesting, that race later. The strategy involved, I can't call it. It's too close to call, I think.
It's exactly what we want, isn't it, really? We like it to be unpredictable. In GT3, it was McLaren on top in qualifying, but Morgan Tilbrook and Marvin Kirchhofer for Optimum Motorsports were not that far ahead of the rest of the field. 2C's Motorsports second on the grid, Blackthorn's Aston Martin third, and the best of the Barwell Lamborghinis, 4th place for Alex Martin and Patrick Kujala. Mark Lemmer of Barwell Motorsport is down in the pit lane at the moment with Bryn Lucas. And Bryn, I'm sure Mark doesn't want us to mention this, but it is his birthday today, I believe.
It is his birthday, and he is over the back, as you can see just there with Patrick looking on at the moment. I am in the garage, as you say. I was just talking to Mark a few moments ago about what's going on in this warm-up session, and essentially they're going to see a lot of action in the pit lane because quite a lot of driver changes. They want to practice this. Alex and Patrick working together for the first time this weekend, and over the other side, Rob Collard coming back in after his medical issue that he had, the fact he's had it resolved. But we're going to go and speak to Sandy Mitchell, who's here. Sandy, it's great to see you here, but not in the car. Now, we won't go into the where, the why, but you're still working with Alex as a mentor, as a coach.
Yeah, just nice to be here and trying to help out in whatever way I can. And yeah, obviously Patrick's coming into the championship again after a few years out, so yeah, getting him up to speed after everyone's already done round 1, just in terms of like regulations and all that kind of thing. And yeah, continuing my relationship with Alex off the track, and you know, trying to get him to go as quick as possible as well. So yeah, it's been good so far, and yeah, see how the pit stop practice goes this morning in preparation for the race.
Cars are out on track. It was here last year that the wheels came off your championship push, really. I know there's Snetterton as well, but for Alex it's a case of just get your head down, do what you were doing last season, because last season was rapid. Not quite so quick this year in the car, though.
Yeah, I think obviously we had a really good first round, and you know, we had good pace at Donington, and P2 was a great start to the year. So I think often in a championship campaign, it's about how good your bad results are, not necessarily how many race wins you have. So this weekend will be all about trying to score as many points as we can. We've not quite got the outright pace compared to a couple of the other cars based on yesterday. And we've also got the 15-second success penalty from the first round. So, you know, if we can get a good finish today, get some points, and then go for it again at Oulton, and yeah, we'll see what we can do.
Keep your hair nice. It's looking fantastic. And Mark Lemmer over there, hopefully having some birthday cake in a little bit.
Thanks, Spring. Good to hear that from Sandy Mitchell. Shame he's not out in the car, but I think it's fair to say, James, that Alex Martin still has a very handy peddler alongside him. Patrick Kujala was right up there in his qualifying session yesterday. They can still race from 4th. I know Mark Lemmer's been saying to you that the car maybe isn't as fast this year at Silverstone as it was last year. 4th on the grid, though, with all the unpredictable elements of the Silverstone 500 to come, they're still a contender.
For sure, they've got a good grid spot. The raw pace is slightly down. They said that the restrictor on the Lamborghini is slightly bigger this year, so that's why they're lacking a bit of pace. At a track like Silverstone, which is very power hungry, you need a lot of grunt to get you down those straights. So they are struggling, but they're a top team that I'm sure with the strategy and maybe the weather as well, they might come into play for the podium, definitely.
There is the birthday boy, Mark Lemmer. Not the only person in the British GT paddock celebrating a birthday today. It's Sam Neary's 23rd birthday. Sam Neary will be racing with his father, Richard, in the Team ABBA Racing Mercedes. They qualified down in 14th place, though, with a bit of work to do if they're going to challenge for victory. This is a car that we've seen challenging for victory before in this race, though. It is the BMW M4 GT3 Evo this year, though, the Evo version of the M4 being used by Paradigm Motorsports, Darren Young and Dan Harper. They, I suspect, will be a factor, starting from 5th on the grid. Also, great to have Ferrari back on the grid. We caught a glimpse there. I think it was the Kessel Racing Ferrari going through, adding another manufacturer to the grid. There is the Neary Mobile. It's Richard in the car at the moment. This is the kind of team, though, James, that you can never really count out. Richard Neary is as feisty as anyone else out on the grid, and Sam, over the years, has really proved himself as a proper top pro driver, capable of mixing it with the works drivers. If they can get on the right side of a bit of strategy, get some track position back, still more than capable of springing a surprise.
Yeah, they'll be there. They'll definitely be there. I think Sam's obviously gone up to gold. He's become a gold-rated driver, and he's gone back down to silver, so he's been up and down. But they're always there, as you say, and the Mercedes is a strong car, always better in the race than it is in quali, from what I've seen. You can see there's some of that white dust on the ground from, I think, the Ginetta Juniors spilling some fluids in the previous race, which was carnage, by the way. Watching you commentate on that was fun. But yeah, so it's a little bit slippy out on track. People just need to obviously be careful. It's warm-up. Don't take any risks. Don't damage the car. The race is only 3 hours away. So, but yeah, so far so good.
With that in mind, I mean, you've taken part in British GT races, these warm-up sessions in the morning. There are those who believe, and sometimes we do see teams say, no, I'm not going to go out at all. There's no point. We're not going to learn anything. The track conditions are going to be very different by the time the race starts. That cement dust, for example, will probably have blown away by then. What is there to benefit from going out on track in this 15-minute session?
Track time's limited, so just to get even 10 minutes is worthwhile, just so you can try extra things. System checks for the cars, you know, make sure everything's running as it should be. If there was any issues in qualifying yesterday, say your drinks bottle wasn't working, for example, something like that, you can just make sure that in this session it's working going into the race, and you give yourself that confidence. But you can even try different things with the setup. You know, if you want to try a roll bar change before the race just to see how it feels, you've got 10 minutes to try it. So there's a lot you can achieve in 15 minutes, even though it's a really short session.
And of course, it helps the AMs just to get their eye in as well. It's generally the AMs who do the bulk of the running in the morning warm-up session, but I've got a few of the pro drivers out on track at the moment. There's Marcus Vivian in the Spirit of Race Ferrari, which is a contender for best-looking car on the grid, I think. We got plenty of time during pre-quali yesterday to admire it when it found itself in a gravel trap, but apart from that, they've had a pretty solid weekend so far. Great-looking car, and it's really nice to have the Ferrari 296s on the grid. It's been a while since we had Ferraris represented in British GT. The best placed of the Ferraris on the grid will be the Kessel Racing number 74 of Andrew Gilbert and Fran Rueda, but there are two of them inside the top half dozen or so on the grid. Interesting to see how the 296 compares against some of the more familiar cars in British GT.
Indeed, yeah, and I love to see it. McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Lamborghini, BMW. I mean, that's just like such a good grid, isn't it? But McLeod, quick out of the box, 58.0 in warm-up, which is a quick time. That's quicker than the race lap record, so I don't know what config people will be running, quali spec, or I would presume they'll be running a bit of fuel to get a feeling as to what the car will feel like in the race. So a 58.0 out of the box is quick.
Let's talk GT4, shall we, for a moment. We're seeing the Mahiki racing team doing a bit of pit stop practice here, maybe. Driver change, refueling their cars as well. The 84 machine in the centre of shot will be starting from pole position in GT4 later on today after a frankly astonishing run by Josh Miller in his qualifying session. Aidan Neat then did his job well in session 2, and they've ended up on pole position by 1.3 seconds on combined times. Optimum Motorsports second, the number 90 car that won at Donington Park last time, and Century's BMW in third. The question I guess I've got regarding Mahiki, James, is do you think they're going to have the same advantage in the race that they showed in qualifying yesterday?
It's hard to say. I think potentially, because in every session so far this season, Donington quali, Donington race, Silverstone quali, they've been the benchmark when it comes to pace. So if they have a clean start, get away, they will be tough to beat. But there's so many variables, you know. I mean, they're a silver pairing, so they've got that to contend with. The pit stop compensation penalty they'll receive at every single pit stop, 12 seconds, which is across 3 pit stops, that's 36 seconds worth of compensation time, which is a lot, and that will claw them back into the Pro-Am lineups. but they have a lot of pace. It's going to be interesting. I mean, that's the beauty of this championship. Even if they are really quick, they've got things in place to make sure it's a close race, regardless.
Yeah, exactly. So we were doing a lot of calculations yesterday, UI and Bryn, and trying to figure out, that 12 seconds at each pit stop, is that enough to sort of pull them back to the rest of the field? And we kind of worked out, well, no, they should still be all right. But that's the word, should, maybe, if. There are so many unpredictables in this race. And all it takes is a safety car to come out when you've just pitted and everyone else hasn't, or vice versa, and it can completely turn the race on its head. Just being quick is not always enough to win the Silverstone 500. Sven Muller out in the number 66 Porsche. Sven, who, along with his teammates, finished second in the opening round of the GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup at Paul Ricard a week or so ago. Another top-class factory driver on the grid. He's just bedding himself in at the wheel of the number 66 machine, which is second quickest in the session, for what it's worth. He's the second driver to get into the 158s, a 58.784. Just under 0.7 of a second away from the fastest time. You can see the sector times at the bottom of the screen. He was going along quite nicely, James, in the first sector, and then he came up behind that Ferrari, which I think has the AM driver in, and he just couldn't find a way through. All of a sudden, 2 seconds have gone. That can happen in the race.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of the combos right now, the driver pairings, have put the pros out first, get a delta on the dash, give your AM something to work with, and then they've pretty much boxed immediately to get the bronze-rated driver in the car so they can get warmed up. I mean, let's face it, the bronze driver needs more track time to get comfortable in the car, with the race only being 3 hours away. The pros, they don't need as much. A lap or two is enough, to be honest.
Caught a glimpse there of Phil Keane in the GT4 Mercedes. Phil Keane, the driver with the most wins in the history of the championship. 21 race victories in British GT. Still yet to win a GT4 class race. He's been running a GT4 for the last season or so now, has Phil. But Phil Keane, whose first race victory was in 2013 at Alton, overall race victory, that is. And, always a force to be reckoned with, no matter what car he's in and what class he happens to be racing in. Who's going quickly in GT4? We're seeing the 84 car there. Oh, there's been yes, well spotted, James. A couple of drive-through penalties actually handed out to the 41 and 50 cars. That's for a fast lane procedure actually right at the start of the session, so that will impact slightly their programme in morning warm-up. But within GT4, looks to be like it is Optimum Motorsport fastest actually at the moment. So number 90 McLaren, quickest of the GT4s right now, but 84 on screen haven't actually posted a lap time yet because they've been in and out of the pit lane changing drivers. So we'll see possibly next time by what sort of pace they've got. Yes, this is an outlap for Aidan Neat in the 84 Mihiki Racing Lotus. Lotus, as James said, was quick at Donington last time. They had some penalties after qualifying, which put them on the back foot a little bit, but the car showed really, really good pace, and it just seems like it's a good all-rounder, doesn't it, James? Silverstone Grand Prix circuit throws a bit of everything at you as a driver. Fast stuff, low-speed technical corners, long straights, traction zones out of the tight turns, and the Lotus seems to have it all covered.
It does. I thought, because we said earlier, Silverstone's a power-intensive track. I thought maybe the BMWs or the Mercedes might come into play, but it still is, the Lotus is the benchmark. And in GT3, just the talk of the paddock is that the McLaren is the strongest car on pace. But there's one sort of caveat to that, is McLarens in these longer endurance races do seem to struggle with a bit of reliability, usually electronic issues or something like that. So that will be a factor. So, as I say, it's too close to call at this stage, but it's going to be a good race.
Thinking ahead to this afternoon as well, I know you keep teasing us with this weather forecast that you've seen. If it were to rain partway through the 3 hours, that is a real head-scratcher for the teams, isn't it, setup-wise? Because you ideally want to put a really quick dry setup on the cars, and they'll have worked on that through testing, which was all dry yesterday. Even now, this morning, they will have obviously a dry setup on the cars. Might there be some teams further down the order who maybe play a little bit of a setup gamble here if it is going to rain later on this afternoon? That could give them a bit of an edge if they feel it's worth the risk.
Potentially, I doubt it with the small chance. I mean, 20% is not enough to gamble on the setup, to be honest, and then you'll just be really slow in the dry. The drivers have aids in the car that they can change to make the car more drivable effectively in wet conditions. ABS, TC, brake bias, even engine map, which can change the throttle map. You can have a wet throttle map, which will make it easier to get the power down in the wet. So there's things they can do on the fly. I don't think anyone's going to run a wet setup, though. I think it's just that there's too small a chance of rain, to be honest.
And even if it is wet, it won't be wet for a long period of time, we don't think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they won't want to lose time when it is dry out on circuit. We're seeing here the number 42 Mercedes then. Winners at Donington last time out. Kian Jewis, the pro driver, is out in the car at the moment that he shares with Charles Dawson. Now, if you weren't with us yesterday, we did cover this story, but we'll mention it again. They're carrying an extra 30 kilos of ballast in the car this weekend. That is just because that particular driver pairing performed a little bit better than anticipated at Donington. And the championship, not wanting them to run away and win every race. No one wants to see that, apart from presumably the team themselves at 2Cs Motorsport. They've put this 30 kilos in the car. Seems to be doing its job. They qualified 7th, although we suspect they were a bit further off the pace than just that extra weight would have caused. So maybe they're still hunting a setup, and they'll be keen to get every bit of track time they can, even in this session, to make sure they've got it right for the race.
That's it. Yeah, and 30 kilos roughly should be 4 or 5 tenths, and they were 1.2 seconds off in quali. So clearly more to find in the setup, and maybe themselves, maybe they didn't get the most out of their quali laps, but judging off their Donington form, I struggle to believe that they as drivers are 1.2 seconds off. So yeah, a bit of a head scratcher considering they were so strong at round 1, to see them be so far off from round 2. But maybe it was just a quali thing. Maybe today in the race they'll be stronger. Who knows? Well, indeed, there will be teams, I'm sure, who have spent most of the practice sessions working on a race setup, because that ultimately is when the points are scored, and you've got 3 hours to try and make up a few positions. 7th is not a terrible starting spot for car 42. Kian Jewis looks like he's on a bit of a push here. He's going to catch some GT4 traffic right at the end of the lap, though. That is actually the number 90 Optimum McLaren, which still, I think, sits... in fact, no, it's not the fastest GT4 car anymore. Jack Mitchell has gone quicker in the number 69, but Kian Jewis weaves his way past the GT4 traffic, will blast out of Luffield Corner and come across the timing line momentarily to start what will be his final lap of the session. The time for Kian Jewis should move him up from 6th place on the times. Yes, it does. 4th quickest now. Best of the Mercedes, interestingly, going quicker now than the number 18, the sister 2Cs Motorsport car. That's the car, the Kevin Say and Maximilian Gertz one, that will start on the front row alongside Optimum's GT3 McLaren. So the 2Cs Motorsport Mercedes, this is the other interesting thing, isn't it, James? The sister car was going really quickly yesterday, the 42, with a little bit of work to do. Yeah, clearly the Mercedes has pace. It's just that particular Mercedes doesn't. And that's the thing. A lot of people see, there's 5 McLarens on the grid, so they all should be identical, and that's not the case. They're set up by different teams. They will be running different setups, different drivers, of course, in those cars. So there's quite a lot of disparity, you could say, between the different cars. I know that from having been with a team and seen the differences between the cars. In theory, they should be the same, but there's always slight differences. Aboard with the number 91 BMW, the M4 GT3 Evo, and the former winners of this race, Dan Harper and Darren Leung, will start 5th on the grid a little bit later on today. The BMW, this has always been a formidable car around here at Silverstone. Front engine, that tends to help it through some of the high and medium speed corners. It's the mid-engined McLaren, though, that will start from pole position. This is our first look at it this morning, and Morgan Tilbrook and Marvin Kirchhofer, the new qualifying lap record holder, Marvin Kirchhofer, and for now he has the honour of holding both qualifying and race lap records. We'll have to wait and see this afternoon whether or not anyone can go underneath his existing race lap record. We've already seen him going quicker than that, though, in morning warm-up today, so I suspect that time may well be beaten. It is a 1 minute 58.304 for reference that they're aiming for. Well, Callum McLeod already 3 tenths under that, and it's only morning warm-up. But yeah, the McLaren looking strong, and Morgan and Marvin, they're a formidable pairing, aren't they? They are. I really want to see Marvin's lap, the onboard, because when it was 4 tenths quicker than P2, new track record. I really want to see what that looks like. That would be fun to watch maybe later. But yeah, the McLaren looks strong. I think they're looking at, considering they're on pole, and if they get a clean start and do the strategy right, they're going to be hard to beat. Checkered flag waves on the morning warm-up session here at Donington, Silverstone, excuse me. And the next time we'll see the cars on track will be to take the green flag at the beginning of the Silverstone 500. Still a handful of drivers who are on flying laps. Number 7, Aston Martin, now in the hands of Johnny Adam. This is a flying lap that he's on, although not setting a personal best in the first sector. And this car again was pretty quick. Giacomo Petrobelli was actually the quickest of the AM drivers in qualifying yesterday. He and Johnny Adam, 19 times a race winner in British GT. Johnny Adam will start 3rd in their Blackthorn Aston Martin.
Johnny Adam loved to get a win here at Silverstone. Giacomo Petrobelli, who I think would like to bounce back a little bit from that disappointing moment that he had at Donington Park, a collision with a GT4 car up at the top of the circuit, and he would like to have a nice clean run in 3 hours later on this afternoon, if nothing else. They certainly will be a contender for the race win. It's McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Lamborghini and BMW, your top 5 on the grid. It's a McLaren fastest in morning warm-up though, and unless Johnny Adam can do something really special in the second half of this lap, I suspect that's the way that it's going to stay. The number 3 McLaren Optimum Motorsport machine of Callum McLeod and Mike Price with the fastest lap in the morning warm-up session here at a sunny, for now, Silverstone. And what a beautiful view, aerial footage from the drone cam at the conclusion of morning warm-up. It's Optimum Motorsport on top, as they were in qualifying yesterday, but it's not the 77 car, it's number 3, that lap time of Callum McLeod, underneath the existing race lap record, which surely has a chance of being beaten in the race later on today. In Silver Am, it was the Spirit of Race Ferrari fastest, and then within GT4, Mahiki, number 69, was fastest on the GT4 cars, and therefore the quickest Pro-Am car too. Optimum Motorsports, number 17, was the best of the silvers, and MKH Racing were also running pretty quickly within the Endurance Cup, so even there, variety in car as to who was topping the various classes. It was the Optimum Motorsport number 3 fastest in morning warm-up, then by 0.6 of a second from 2C's Motorsports number 18. They will start second on the grid behind an Optimum Motorsport McLaren later on this afternoon. Sven Muller put the 3rd fastest lap time in for Team Parker Racing. Then it was the number 42 Mercedes, only a second off the pace actually. That's pretty good stuff for them actually. They will take some satisfaction from that, I think, going into the race later on. Orange Racing by JMH for the top 5 in GT3. Within GT4 it was Mahiki Racing fastest, Optimum Motorsport was 2nd quickest, the championship leaders after Donington, and MKH Racing's Stuart Hall, I suspected that time, was the 3rd fastest in GT4. Optimum Motorsport were next, and then Team Parker Racing's Mercedes of Phil Keane rounding out the top 5 in GT4. So we look forward then to the Silverstone 500, which will begin at 12:30 later on this afternoon. It will be car 77, which starts from pole position in GT3. Will they still be at the front at the end of 3 hours of racing? You'll have to tune in later on this afternoon to find out. It is one not to be missed, that's for sure.